And so saying that, hearing the governor's comments yesterday, what were your thoughts to him basically kind of throwing your department under the bus?
You know, it was troubling on a Sunday evening. It was deeply troubling on a Sunday evening because we are in the middle of a crisis. And crises can be a little bit chaotic. And everybody responds to crises in a different way. Some folks add to the confusion, and some folks try to be a part of the solution. I'm going to do my dead level best to be a part of the solution in dealing with the clear and present danger that we're faced with, which is 7 armed and dangerous men, possibly on the streets of New Orleans, possibly still in this area, possibly outside of the parish. I understand the governor would like to know why we hadn't filed additional charges against those inmates. And the simple answer is we never got the evidence from the sheriff's office. Sheriff's office, without evidence in a case, we can't move forward. We can't ethically file charges if we don't have the contraband that was recovered, if we don't have the body-worn camera footage that was used, if we don't have the video surveillance that was used, if we don't have a complete police report that was used, we just can't go forward. And if we do go forward without evidence, we get tossed out of court by a judge, or the case, the person is acquitted by jury, because it's a court of law that requires evidence. Now, what I've done for you, because I figured you might have some of those questions, is I've got a complete list of the individuals that escaped from the jail and any charges that were levied on them when they were in OPSO. Linton Van Buren, charged with battery of a correctional facility's employee. That case was refused because the sheriff's office failed to provide reports. Possession of introduction of contraband into a jail facility. That case had to be refused because the sheriff's office never gave us any of the evidence necessary to prosecute the case. Battery of a correctional facility employee. That case was accepted, and it's set for competency in Section F on May 29th of this year. Another charge of introduction of contraband refused again because we didn't get a police report, nor did we get the evidence. Another case refused because we didn't get the evidence. Jermaine Donald, that case was accepted. It's set for motions on May 28th of this year. Leo Tate pled guilty in 2019, has no new cases from OJC. Kendall Miles, that case is on hold because of a competency process. And there's a discovery hearing set for that case 6/12 of 2025. There was another case that was refused because the victim stated that he did not want to go forward because it was a jail fight and he's now out of custody. And the victim's mother also called and said the son did not want to go forward after we pressed to try to get him to go forward. Derek Groves pled guilty. That's the case that I tried twice with my lawyers. And this man's on the run right now, who could have been taken upstate, but for some reason the state never came to get him. He pled guilty of a battery of a corrections officer from 2024. So there was a conviction in that case. Corey Boyd, there's a charge, and that matter is accepted and is being prosecuted. It's set for discovery for July 16th of 2025, and we hope we get the evidence from the sheriff's office. Robert Moody had charges that came out of OJC. That case had to be refused because the sheriff's office simply did not provide the evidence for us. And that's been happening for a couple of years now. And we have here letters that we have written to the sheriff's office, to the sheriff specifically, calling her attention to a number of issues. We can share those with you, calling attention to the fact that we are not receiving information timely. In one case in particular, we had to bring charges against a sheriff's deputy because he was removing and hiding shanks, weapons carved in the jail during the fight, and that evidence was not available for us to move forward with, and we're bringing charges against that person. There's also a letter to Judge Afric to the Doug Williams from the FBI and Dwayne Evans calling attention to a number of these matters as they were occurring in the jail. So it's not new, and it is frustrating that the governor would not have just simply called me over the weekend. My phone was on. I was working with our digital forensics team, going through jail calls in an effort to try to figure out who might have been involved and knew of this planned jailbreak, and who might have received these individuals once they got out. So I really wish that the governor would have just asked me the question you asked me, and we could have provided him all the documentation. He would have easily seen that the evidence simply was never turned over to my office to go forward with those cases. Keith?
I'll go next with Rob. Rob, anything on the topic of O'Keefe Johnson?
I mean, in light of the Johnson case, Mr. Williams, how concerned are you for some of the other witnesses involved in this escape right now and possible retribution? What is your office doing to try and protect those witnesses?
So, Rob, I am personally afraid, not just for myself, but for my lawyers who tried the case against the individual twice. We were asking for a life sentence of this man. And he is now at large. Two of the lawyers who I tried that case with, who successfully went forward, able to get a conviction on that case, these lawyers got out of town this weekend with their families out of fear of retribution and retaliation. So, you know, I've been very clear, and let me tell you what my office did immediately upon finding out from the press about this jailbreak, because that's how we found out. We immediately began working. Allison Morgado, the chief of our victim witness, began calling victims and witnesses to let them know that the defendants in these cases, in their cases, were out and at large, and that it was necessary to take precautions. We worked with the NOPD to make sure that these individuals, those who wanted to be relocated, could be relocated, and they're very afraid, and I think they have a right to be afraid. You know, the lawyers who tried that case with me, the witnesses who were brave enough to come forward and stare Derek Groves down in that courtroom, the next of kin who sat in that courtroom knowing what he did to their family members. We are all the ones in harm's way, not Jeff Landry.
Eleanor, anything on Johnson or the current issue?
Current issue?
Yeah, so.
Jason, you mentioned, or the governor said that these pretrial cases are moving too slow. You're saying you're having issues with the sheriff's office. Regardless of that, like you mentioned, these cases have victims, these cases have victims' families that might be watching right now saying, one, not only am I scared, I'm frustrated that I haven't been able to secure justice for my family. Now the people that hurt me and my family are on the run. What would you say to those people watching?
It should never happen. It should never happen. When you look at what occurred on Friday, 10 men were in a single pod. There's not a pod over there made for 10 men. There were monitors that should have been watched that would have observed these individuals getting into that first floor pod. Derek Groves, the person's case that I personally tried, and he was on trial for a double homicide. There are rules and protocols for correctional facilities. I've toured that jail. I've seen that jail before it was occupied by inmates with former Sheriff Guzman. And there is a control room with monitors that are viewing every part and parcel of that area. The fact that these individuals were even on the first floor, you don't keep the most dangerous people on the first floor. They're supposed to be on higher floors, right? And so there are a number of breakdowns that occurred, and any family member who is scared or frustrated, they have every right to be, because this should not have happened. And if it happened at 1 a.m., they should have been notified at 1:30, right? Because they were in harm's way. And there will be an inquiry into everything that's occurred in this case. I believe this office is obligated to do that. We've made it clear that we're going to do it in an objective way, in an unbiased way. But the people of this community deserve answers. These victims and these witnesses deserve answers. And to the question about why, I think the governor asked a question about cases taking too long. Well, after we convict someone, it's not on the DA's office to go pick them up in a van and drive them up there and go. That's the state's responsibility by law. If it was up to me, you know, he wouldn't have been here a single day after his conviction, but unfortunately, it's not up to me. Now, here's the other piece of that. There seems to be a little bit of selective amnesia about what's actually occurring in Orleans Parish. Orleans Parish has an 85% conviction rate in homicide cases, which is an all-time high in the modern era. And I would, if we're going to pose questions from the podium, the question would be, show me another parish that is trying this many murder cases and this many rape cases with an 85% success rate. And to forget the fact that we could not have jury trials for more than a year in this parish, longer than the other parish, there obviously is a backlog. But that's a busy place. The courtroom next door, Tulane and Broad, is one of the busiest courtrooms in the state of Louisiana, and I would encourage the governor and his team to come and look at it. Regardless of the backlog of cases from the pandemic, regardless of the backlog from cases because of the state crime lab, regardless of all those issues, the lawyers, the jurors, the witnesses, the judges over there are working very, very hard, and it is one of the busiest courtrooms in the state. So to suggest that justice is not being served because of the volume of cases we have, that is factually dishonest, incorrect, and disingenuous.
We'll go to Chelsea with that, yes?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you mentioned the letters where you raised the concerns with OPSO. Did you have any other concerns with OPSO that you addressed with them? And if so, either way, rather, did you raise any of those concerns with any other city officials?
Yes, we raised numerous concerns with regards to inmates harming inmates and never receiving reports about it. We've raised concerns about individuals being released that were not supposed to be released. Every single time there was a breakdown, we reached out to the sheriff directly. We reached out to the federal judge in one instance, making him aware of sort of the long list of things that had occurred, to no avail and with no correction.
Joey, sounds good.
Did you say 10 men in one pod? Do you mean, you don't mean one cell, do you?
So if you look at the picture that's come up with the toilet that was pulled away from that opening, that area is a pod. And in that pod, those 10 individuals that escaped from that area should have never been allowed to be in that area together themselves to get out from that spot, right? So yes, someone should have caught the destruction of the toilet and destruction of the wall and getting out, because that doesn't happen in a day, does it? All right, I mean, like, there's a bolt on the inside, on the back side of that toilet, and there's no tools. There's not supposed to be any tools in the jail, so certainly that didn't happen in a matter of minutes, right? So it was missed during the entire time that plan was being hatched. And then when these individuals made way out of the space that they were supposed to be in, there should have been a sheriff's deputy at a post that would have observed that. So this is not just about one lunch break. Seems like there's a lot of lunch breaks that occur.
I have another question. Rose was awaiting sentencing, right?
Correct.
And then Tate had already been sentenced. Do we know why he was still in the jail?
You know, I don't. I mean, that is not something that district attorneys across the country or across the state have any control of. I think you'd have to take it up with the Department of Corrections, which is a state entity under the governor's control. But it's an excellent question. I understand that I think approximately 20 inmates were taken from the jail and were taken to the state facility after the jailbreak. If that could be done after the jailbreak, it could have been done months ago or a year ago. So you'd have to take that up with state officials. I can't answer that question.
Something more from Cassie?
Yeah, we have some viewers kind of asking some questions here, so I just thought I would get one of them. One person asked about what about the refusals that weren't jail related when it came to some of these inmates. Some of the cases were refused, like some domestic abuse cases and stuff like that.
Look, I think I saw Clancy Dubose on last night, and he summed it up in a way better than I can. There's not a DA in this country that wants to refuse a case, right? We bring cases when there is evidence and when there is witness support to go forward. It is unethical to go forward if the complaining witness changes their mind and says they don't want the case to go forward, or if we don't have the evidence to prove the case. For example, if it's a jailhouse fight and there's video surveillance of the fight and we never get the video, what do you think is going to happen when jurors are listening to closing arguments in that case and they didn't see any evidence? They're going to find the person not guilty. That's if a judge lets it go that far. So we move forward when we have evidence to support a prosecution. We cannot ethically move forward when we don't. We're not going to waste taxpayer dollars with a case we can't prove.
Another question from Rob.
Okay, so what specifically, though, is your office doing to try and protect the witnesses in this case? Or are you working with state officials to try and do that? And are you worried that some of the comments from the governor could possibly impact that working relationship?
So I'll tell you what we're doing first. We're working with the NOPD and our other partners. And look, Head of Troop NOLA, AG Morrell, Josh Jackson, Special Agent in charge of ATF, and Kirkpatrick, NOPD, we are all collaborating and working on the crisis at hand, which is 7 dangerous inmates at large. We're going to continue to do that. I have been working tirelessly with our digital forensics team, listening to these jail calls to figure out if we can provide some information that can be helpful in finding these individuals, at least to know where they are. We're going to keep doing that. We're not going to stop collaborating because someone took this opportunity to engage in some partisan pot shots at the city of New Orleans. And that's not going to help us find these people. I'm going to do my dead level best to stay focused on the crisis at hand and at the job that we have to do here in the city of New Orleans.
The final question from one from Joe and one from Eleanor to close this
Can you
out.
say anything else about the lawyers from your office who left the state? When we talk about prosecutors, can you say how many, and do they have any police protection?
I'm not going to address their protection. I'm not going to address where they are. All I'm going to say is it is unfortunate that people who are doing the work for the citizens to secure justice against a dangerous person felt like their lives were in danger because a man who might wish them harm was free to roam about the parish and this neighborhood and we're a rock's throw from the jail, and they were told nothing by their colleagues in the sheriff's office.
Jason, you mentioned that you were listening, your team is listening to these jailhouse calls. At the press conference last week, the sheriff said, you know, we may have missed some, we don't have staff, when she was asked about those calls and the way that they can communicate on those iPads. Then is it frustrating to seem like you are now playing catch up on what could have been prevented in the first place?
So yeah, it's not just frustrating, it's downright dangerous. Police, prosecutors, troopers, U.S. Marshals, after the fact, yes, we're trying to compile this information to see if we can figure out how this unfolded. There was one entity that was responsible for every movement of these individuals while they are in custody. The idea that they are saying they had to go back and look at footage is ridiculous. Those monitors are there to be observed in real time. That is how that jail was built, right? So this concept that they didn't alert the press or the public because they had to figure out exactly who was out, that's problematic. The fact that they had to go back and look at the footage from 1 o'clock that someone should have been looking at, that is problematic. Because, I mean, let's just peel back the onion here. Okay, this person, as it was described, went to go get a bite of food, I think is how it was described. All right, so they come back from lunch, and nobody's there at 1:30. What do we do? This is absolutely absurd, and it is absolutely dangerous. This should have never happened, and this whole thing that happened Sunday evening is only distracting the focus from what it needs to be on, which is bringing dangerous inmates back into custody before someone gets hurt. We are all so blessed right now. We are all so blessed. And I'm not just talking about my lawyers. I'm not just talking about people who work close to the jail. In this community, people are desperate. These men are facing long terms in jail. And the fact that they have not hurt someone trying to steal a car, that is the grace of God.
All right, thanks a lot to you all.
Thank you, guys. We'll get this documentation to you, too, so you'll have it.
Yes, thank you.
So there you have it, Orleans Parish District Attorney Jason Williams talking about the ongoing manhunt for 7 inmates who escaped in jail 4 days ago. He's saying this never should have happened. And he's also raising concerns, of course, about the system in place and public safety. 3 inmates were recaptured. There were 10 inmates in all that broke out of the jail on a Friday, but nobody knew until the standard 8:30 a.m. head count the very next morning. Of course, we're going to continue to follow all of the developing news as it happens.